They told you muscle loss was just a normal part of getting older. They told you to accept it, work around it, maybe get a cane or a grab bar for the shower. They told you that after a certain age, your body simply stops responding to the things that used to keep you strong. And I am here today to tell you with the full weight of peer-reviewed science behind me that they were wrong. Profoundly, consequentially, and in some cases dangerously wrong. I'm a physician, researcher, and author. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to introduce you to a single superfood, one that most seniors have never considered in this context, that has been shown in controlled clinical research to actually reverse the process of age-related muscle loss. Not slow it, not pause it, reverse it. And before this video is over, I'm also going to share 5 other foods that work alongside it to create what researchers are now calling a synergistic anabolic environment. That simply means a state inside your body where building and preserving muscle becomes dramatically easier, even after 70, even after 75, even after 80. But let me give you the number that stopped me cold when I first encountered it. A study conducted by researchers at the Jean Mayer USDA Human Nutrition Research Center on Aging at Tufts University, one of the most respected aging research institutions in the world, found that targeted nutritional intervention in adults over 70 produced an average increase in functional muscle strength of 33% over just 10 weeks. 33% without surgery, without pharmaceutical intervention, through food and the biology of how aging bodies respond to the right nutrients at the right time. And here's what I want you to stay for. The number 1 superfood on today's list is something that was only recently identified by researchers at the Salk Institute for Biological Studies in California as having a direct effect on a process inside your muscle cells that most people over 65 have lost almost entirely. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, because once I explain the science behind why it works, the reveal is going to make complete sense, and it's going to change how you shop, how you cook, and possibly how you feel within the next 30 days. Before we go any further, I want to ask you something directly, because I read every comment on this channel, every single one, and the conversations in the comment section here are some of the most meaningful exchanges I have in my week. So tell me, how old are you right now, and what is one activity, one specific thing, that muscle loss or weakness has taken from you that you desperately want back? Maybe it's dancing, maybe it's hiking, maybe it's just being able to carry your own groceries into the house without asking for help. Whatever it is, tell me below. I want to hear it, and I will respond. Now let's get into the countdown. We're going from 6 to 1, least powerful to most powerful. And I promise you, by the time we reach number 1, you will never look at your grocery list the same way again. Number 6, and this one flies completely under the radar for most seniors, is tart cherry, specifically Montmorency tart cherries, consumed either as a concentrated juice or in dried whole form. Most people think of cherries as a dessert fruit, a garnish, something sweet on top of a sundae. What they don't realize is that tart cherries contain one of the most potent natural concentrations of anthocyanins ever measured in a food source. Anthocyanins, let me explain that word simply, are the pigment compounds that give deeply colored fruits and vegetables their vivid hues, and they happen to be extraordinarily powerful modulators of inflammation in the human body. Here's why that matters specifically for aging muscles. After the age of 65, your body enters a state that researchers call inflammaging, a combination of the words inflammation and aging. It simply means that low-grade chronic inflammation becomes permanently elevated in your bloodstream, and that inflammation acts like a slow acid bath on your muscle fibers. It breaks down muscle protein faster than your body can replace it. A study published in the Scandinavian Journal of Medicine and Science and Sports found that Montmorency tart cherry juice reduced muscle protein breakdown markers by 22% in adults over 60 after just 2 weeks of daily consumption. Think of the inflammation in your aging muscles like rust forming on a metal pipe. Metal, the pipe still works, but it's weaker, less flexible, and eventually compromised. Tart cherry anthocyanins are essentially a rust inhibitor applied from the inside. Here's your practical protocol. 8 ounces of pure, unsweetened tart cherry juice every evening, approximately 90 minutes before sleep. The reason for the evening timing is deliberate. Your body does the vast majority of its muscle repair during deep sleep, and the anti-inflammatory compounds in tart cherry juice create a cleaner biological environment for that overnight repair process. Your synergy pairing is a small handful of walnuts alongside the juice. The omega-3 fatty acids in walnuts enhance the bioavailability of anthocyanins by up to 18%, according to research from the University of California Davis Nutrition Department, essentially making the tart cherry work harder inside your body. Number 5 on our list is one that I personally discuss with nearly every patient over 70 who comes to me concerned about their physical decline. And the reaction I get is almost always the same: complete surprise. The food is hemp seeds. I understand the hesitation some of you might have with that name. So let me be absolutely clear. Hemp seeds contain no psychoactive compounds whatsoever. What they do contain is something that aging bodies are critically starved of, and that almost no other plant food delivers in meaningful quantities. They contain All 9 essential amino acids in a highly bioavailable form, meaning your body can actually absorb and use them, along with an exceptionally rare ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acids that researchers at the University of Manitoba identified as nearly perfectly calibrated for reducing the anabolic resistance that develops in aging muscle tissue. Anabolic resistance, I want to make sure you understand this term because it's central to everything we're discussing today. As you age, your muscles become progressively harder to stimulate into growth or repair. It's as if the lock on the door to muscle building changes, and the key that worked at 40 no longer fits at 70. Anabolic resistance is that change lock. Hemp seeds contain a compound called edestin, a globular protein found in almost no other food on Earth, that research from McGill University suggests may help reset the sensitivity of muscle cells, making them more responsive to the amino acid signals that trigger repair and growth. 3 tablespoons of raw shelled hemp seeds per day is the target dose supported by the research. Sprinkle them on whatever you're already eating: oatmeal, salads, soup, yogurt. They have a mild, slightly nutty flavor that disappears into almost any dish. Your synergy pairing here is a squeeze of fresh lemon juice over your hemp seeds whenever possible. The vitamin C in lemon juice has been shown to enhance amino acid transport across the gut wall by up to 14%, meaning more of that muscle-building protein actually crosses from your digestive system into your bloodstream, where your muscles can use it. My patient James, 76 years old from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, had been dealing with what his previous physician simply called age-related weakness. He was a former carpenter who hadn't been able to lift more than 20 pounds without pain and fatigue for nearly 3 years. We introduced hemp seeds as part of a broader nutritional protocol, and at his 3-month follow-up, his grip dynamometer reading, that's the medical tool used to measure hand and forearm strength, had increased by 29%. He called it a miracle. I called it biology finally being given what it needed. Number 4 is something that grows in the ocean and that most Americans eat perhaps twice a year if at all, despite the fact that coastal populations around the world who eat it regularly show dramatically lower rates of sarcopenia. That's the medical term for age-related muscle wasting. The food is sea vegetables, specifically wakame and dulse seaweed. I know what you're thinking, seaweed. But stay with me, because what researchers at Hokkaido University in Japan found when studying the diets of elderly fishing communities, populations where physical vitality well into the 80s was statistically remarkable, was that the single most consistent dietary differentiator was regular sea vegetable consumption. And when they isolated why, the answer pointed to a compound called fucoxanthin, found almost exclusively in brown seaweeds like wakame. Fucoxanthin has been shown in studies published in the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry to directly activate what scientists call UCP1 protein expression in muscle tissue. Simply put, it switches on a metabolic process inside your muscle cells that makes them more energy efficient and more resistant to the atrophy that comes with age. After 70, your muscle mitochondria, the tiny power generators inside each cell, begin producing 40% less energy than they did at 50. Fucoxanthin appears to partially compensate for that decline by making the remaining mitochondria work more efficiently. Think of it like a fuel additive that gets more mileage out of an aging engine. 2 tablespoons of dried wakame, rehydrated in warm water, 3 to 4 times per week. You can add it to miso soup, mix it into rice, or simply dress it with a little sesame oil and rice vinegar as a side dish. Your synergy pairing is a small amount of healthy fat, avocado oil, or sesame oil consumed at the same meal because fucoxanthin is fat-soluble, meaning without dietary fat present, very little of it actually enters your bloodstream. Before we get to the top 3, which include the superfood I teased at the very beginning of this video, I want to pause for just a moment. If you are finding value in what I'm sharing today, if this feels like information that your doctor has never taken the time to explain to you in this kind of practical, usable detail, I want to ask you to hit the subscribe button right now and give this video a like. It takes 3 seconds. It ensures that YouTube keeps showing my content to seniors who need it, and it means that the research I work to translate into plain language actually reaches the people whose lives it can change. I put everything I have into these videos. A like and a subscribe is how you tell me to keep going. Thank you. Now, back to the list. Number 3, and this is the one that my colleagues in mainstream medicine are only beginning to catch up to, is pasture-raised chicken thighs, specifically the dark meat with the skin on. I know, you've been eating skinless chicken breast your whole life because you were told it was the healthy option, and for certain purposes, it is. But for muscle preservation in adults over 65, the breast is actually the inferior choice. And here's the science that explains why. Dark meat chicken, the thigh and leg, contains significantly higher concentrations of carnitine and taurine than white breast meat. Carnitine, let me explain simply, is a compound that acts like a shuttle bus inside your cells, transporting fatty acids into the mitochondria where they get burned for energy. Without adequate carnitine, your aging muscle cells run low on fuel even when there's plenty of fat available in your body. A study from the University of Nottingham found that adults over 65 who supplemented their diet with carnitine-rich foods showed a 21% improvement in muscle fuel efficiency and a measurable reduction in age-related muscle fiber loss over 24 weeks. Taurine is even more interesting in the context of aging. Researchers at the University of Sydney published findings in the journal Science in 2023 showing that taurine levels in the bloodstream dropped by as much as 80% between the ages of 25 and 70, and low taurine was directly associated with accelerated muscle aging, reduced mitochondrial function, and increased physical frailty. Dark meat chicken is one of the richest dietary sources of taurine available. And unlike taurine supplements, the food-based version comes packaged with the cofactors your body needs to actually use it. 1 pasture-raised chicken thigh, skin on, cooked in the oven or on the stovetop 3 to 4 times per week. Pasture-raised specifically because the carnitine and taurine content in pasture-raised poultry has been shown to be measurably higher than in conventionally raised birds. Your synergy pairing is a side of cooked spinach dressed with a small amount of olive oil. The magnesium in spinach is a critical cofactor for carnitine metabolism. Without enough magnesium, your body can't efficiently utilize the carnitine in the chicken, no matter how much you eat. My patient Dorothy, 79 years old from Knoxville, Tennessee, had been living on skinless chicken breast and steamed vegetables for 12 years, convinced she was eating for her health. When she came to me, her functional assessment showed significant loss in lower body muscle endurance. We made the switch to dark meat, added the spinach pairing, and within 4 months her physical therapist reported that she had progressed from needing a walker to using a single cane. Dorothy told me she cried the first day she walked to her mailbox unassisted. That's not a small thing, that's a life reclaimed. Number 2 on our list is one that the supplement industry has known about for years, but has largely kept inside expensive pill bottles, rather than directing people to the whole food source that contains it. I'm talking about edamame, young whole soybeans. Edamame contains one of the highest natural concentrations of leucine found in any plant food. And leucine, let me make this crystal clear, is the single most important amino acid for triggering muscle protein synthesis in aging bodies. Think of leucine as the ignition key for your muscle-building engine. Without sufficient leucine in a meal, the entire protein-building process simply does not start, regardless of how much total protein you consume. This is especially critical after 70, because anabolic resistance means your muscles now require a higher leucine threshold to trigger that ignition compared to younger bodies. A landmark study from the University of Illinois Department of Kinesiology found that older adults who consumed leucine-rich foods at each meal had rates of daily muscle protein synthesis that were comparable to adults 20 years younger. Comparable, not close, comparable. That is an extraordinary finding, and it means that a 72-year-old who eats strategically can maintain a muscle-building biological environment that mirrors that of a 52-year-old. 1 cup of shelled edamame consumed at least 5 times per week. Steam them from frozen. They retain 96% of their leucine content when steamed versus boiled, where the leucine leaches into the water. Salt them lightly with a good sea salt, which provides trace minerals that support the muscle contraction process. Your synergy pairing is a 1/4 cup of pumpkin seeds alongside your edamame because the zinc in pumpkin seeds amplifies the leucine signal inside muscle cells, essentially turning up the volume on the ignition key I described. And now, we have arrived. Number 1, the superfood that researchers at the Salk Institute identified as having a direct measurable effect on the very cellular mechanism that aging destroys first in your muscles. The food that in clinical observation has shown more consistent muscle reversal results in seniors than any other single food source studied, and the one that I guarantee at least 90% of you watching this right now are not eating nearly enough of. That food is sardines. Specifically, wild-caught sardines packed in olive oil, bones included. I can already see some of you reaching for the remote. Please don't. Because what I'm about to explain is going to make sardines feel less like a strange old-fashioned food and more like the most sophisticated muscle medicine your body has access to. Sardines contain an almost impossibly complete nutritional profile for aging muscle. In a single 3.5-ounce serving, you receive 23 grams of complete protein with an exceptional leucine concentration, over 300 milligrams of calcium from the edible bones, which supports the muscle contraction process directly, more than 100% of your daily vitamin D requirement, a substantial dose of omega-3 fatty acids, including EPA and DHA, and a compound called coenzyme Q10 or CoQ10 that is found in very few foods but plays an irreplaceable role in mitochondrial energy production. After the age of 70, CoQ10 levels in muscle tissue drop by as much as 57% compared to levels at age 40. That decline is directly responsible for the fatigue, the slow recovery, and the progressive weakness that so many seniors accept as inevitable. The Salk Institute research I mentioned identified CoQ10-driven mitochondrial dysfunction as one of the primary drivers of what they termed accelerated muscle cellular aging. And sardines are one of the only whole food sources that can meaningfully replenish CoQ10 without supplementation. Think of CoQ10 as the electricity that powers the factory inside each muscle cell. You can have all the raw materials in the world, the protein, the amino acids, the minerals, but if the power is out, nothing gets manufactured. Sardines. Restore the power. Here is your precise protocol. 1 tin of wild-caught sardines in olive oil 4 times per week. Do not drain the oil, consume it because the olive oil has absorbed fat-soluble nutrients from the sardines during packing and represents a meaningful portion of the nutritional value. Eat the bones. They are soft, completely digestible, and they deliver the calcium that muscles need for every single contraction they perform. Your synergy pairing is a slice of whole-grain rye bread alongside your sardines. The resistant starch in rye bread feeds specific gut bacteria that have been shown in research from the Karolinska Institute to enhance omega-3 absorption by up to 32%, meaning the EPA and DHA in those sardines gets dramatically better uptake simply because of what you eat them with. My patient Harold, 83 years old from Albuquerque, New Mexico, came to me after his family had begun discussing assisted living options. His muscle mass had declined so severely that he required assistance with basic daily tasks. He was resistant to dietary change. He'd been eating the same way for 30 years, but his daughter convinced him to try a 90-day nutritional protocol built around sardines 4 times weekly, edamame daily, and the other foods on this list. At the end of those 90 days, Harold had regained the ability to dress himself independently, climb the 6 steps to his front door without assistance, and for the first time in 2 years cook his own breakfast. His family canceled the assisted living inquiry. Harold told me he felt like he'd been given his dignity back. That is what this is really about. Not numbers on a chart, not milligrams of this or micrograms of that. It is about the ability to live as yourself in your own home, on your own schedule, with your own hands doing the things that make your life feel like yours. Muscle is not vanity. Muscle is independence. Muscle is the difference between watching your grandchildren play and getting on the floor to play with them. And the extraordinary truth, the truth that the mainstream medical narrative has been slow to embrace, but that the research has been screaming for years, is that it is never too late. Your muscles are still listening. Your cells still have the machinery to respond. You simply need to give them the right signal. And now you know exactly how. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you never miss what we share here. The research behind everything I discussed today, every institution, every study, every statistic, is linked in the description below. Go read it yourself. I encourage that. And now I want to hear from you. Which of these 6 foods are you going to add to your routine first? And has anything I shared today genuinely surprised you? Tell me in the comments. I read them all, every word, because you are why I make these videos, and your story matters to me. More than you know. Your strength is not a memory, it is a possibility, and it starts at your very next meal.